The production manager of Rorden Corporation has submitted the following forecast of units to produce by quarter for the upcoming fiscal year. Each unit requires 0.35 direct labor hours, and direct laborers are paid $12 per hour. Construct the company's direct labor budget for the upcoming fiscal year, assuming that direct labor workforce is adjusted each quarter to match the number of hours required to produce the forecasted number of units. Let's go ahead and take a look at our total labor hours for the first quarter. Those will be 28,000 direct labor hours. That's the 8,000 units times 0.35 labor hours per unit. For a total labor cost for the first quarter of $33,600. That's the 2,800 hours times $12 per hour. For the second quarter, our total labor hours will be 2,275. That's the 6,500 units times 0.35 hours per unit. And our total labor cost will be $27,300, which is the 2,275 hours times $12 per hour. For the third quarter, our total direct labor hours will be 2,450 hours. When we multiply this by the $12 per hour, we get a total labor cost of $29,400. Our total labor hours required for the fourth quarter will be 2,625 hours. When we multiply this by the $12 per hour, we get a total cost for the fourth quarter for direct labor of $31,500. Our total labor hours for the year will be 10,150 hours, and our total direct labor cost for the year will be $121,800. If instead of being able to adjust our workforce to meet our production needs, assume that direct labor workforce is not adjusted each quarter, but rather has permanent employees who are guaranteed to be paid for at least 2,600 hours of work per quarter, and that any hours worked in excess of that 2,600 hours per quarter are paid at a rate of 1.5 times the normal hourly rate for direct labor. Let's go ahead and calculate our direct labor cost for the first quarter. Our regular hours will be 2,600 regular hours times $12 per hour. For the second quarter, our regular hours, again 2,600 times 12, we'll spend 31,200 for straight time. The same will be true for the third quarter and the fourth quarter. Now let's go ahead and take a look at any overtime requirements. Our overtime requirements for the first quarter will be 200 hours. That's the 2,800 total labor hours from the first part, minus our guaranteed 2,600 regular hours. So we'll need to work 200 hours of overtime. And we pay our overtime workers time and a half, so we'll pay them $18 an hour. 200 times $18 an hour gives us an overtime or cost for overtime hours of $3,600. For the second quarter, since our required total hours from part 1 is only 2,275 hours, and that's less than the regular hours that we will have available, 2,600, we won't need to work or pay any overtime. For the third quarter, our required direct labor hours is 2,450 again from the first part, which is less than the 2,600 regular hours we guarantee our employees, so we won't pay any overtime. In the fourth quarter, however, our total required labor hours is 2,625, which is 25 hours in excess of our 2,600 regular hours. We'll pay for 25 hours of overtime at a rate of $18 per hour for a total overtime cost of $450. This means our total labor cost for the first quarter will be $34,800. That's our regular time of $31,200 plus $3,600 in overtime. For the second quarter, we have no overtime, so our labor cost is simply the $31,200. The same is true for the third quarter. But for the fourth quarter, we did have overtime of $450, which brings our total direct labor cost up to $31,600. $650. For the year, we're going to work 10,400 hours, and we'll pay regular time $124,800 for these regular hours. In addition, we will work 225 hours of overtime at a cost of $18 an hour for a total of $4,050. Our total direct labor cost, regular time and overtime, for the year would be $128,850.